Today I'm going to be talking about what actually happens when you take notes, whether it be for a class, a lecture, or just in an every day-to-day life dealing with a business or anything that you feel like you need to take notes with. Note taking is one of the most common study tools used among students. That can be in high school, college, pretty much anywhere. But there is a tendency that for one reason or another, there are gaps in the notes. Now, this could be there's information missing because you didn't have time to write it down, sentences that don't necessarily make sense without context. Um, and it affects the students' grades because they can't study what they need to know, and they might be studying the wrong thing if they think that, oh, this means this because I wrote it weird and I interpreted it this. Instead, it actually means something else. So in 2016, Kenneth Akira shared with the world his findings on note taking. He started this experiment as a college student, researched it a little bit with the help of a teacher, because what happened is in college, he had a professor who didn't want students taking notes during the class because he said it distracted them. So he came up with his own notes and would send them out at the end of class, so students still had something to look back at. However, Kira liked his notes better and tried to sneakily take some notes during class. He was caught, and he wanted to know how much this was actually helping him. So he started doing some research, and then later a court approached him about a case, so he could look at the notes to detect whether or not there was some fraud going on with a power company. And this once again brought up his question about, how much are we actually learning from the notes and how much are the notes actually helping us? So, in his opinion, the three most common mistakes that happen when taking notes are that we omit most of what is being said, they omit details, context, and essential qualifiers, and that notes contain inaccurate or vague statements. So, Kira conducted 16 experiments to see how much people retained when notes were being taken. Now, this particular one is about the face-to-face interaction one. He did one about, video lectures and over the phone, and also as group seminars, which most of the findings are pretty similar. So I decided to do the most common one, which is going to be that face-to-face kind of classroom note-taking. But during this study, he found that individuals captured between 20 to 70% of the information that they were presented with, and but on average, individuals noted about 35% of the presented information, and I believe with the group seminar, it was only about 30%, so they lost that 5% of information there. So it was found that when it comes to details and notes, most people record about 63 of the presenter's main ideas, but only 33% of all the information that's presented. And so pretty much everything else with detail wise, and that really once again hinders your ability to understand what's being talked about when you look back on it a couple hours or like a day later. And then when you, in relation to context, it was discovered that just 15% of contextual detail was recorded in notes. And then he wanted to see how people were, these important information, how many people were skipping out on it. So he looked at a study done by Maddox and Hole in 1975, and he found out what people were commonly leaving out when they didn't think information was important. A presenter could say things like the western coastal areas, and on almost all the notes, it just came out as coastal areas, which really is a difference. And once again, that shows how things can get wrong. You can study the wrong thing, and how things can take, a negative turn quickly. And notes contain inaccurate or vague statements. Kira comments that individuals often alter information when noting it. He looked at a study in 1925 that was recorded, that the individuals had about 53% of information recorded was correct, 45% was vague, and 2% was inaccurate. And it shows you that when that 45%, you're looking back at it, and the moment you were taking it, the notes, everything, it made sense. So you just jotted something down. Like I said, it could be a couple hours, a couple days later, and now it's very vague. And so you have to try to remember, and you're trying to make sense. And this is how you get some of that misinformation. And that 2% that's inaccurate doesn't help you remember. And you could be learning the wrong thing and then you could fail, bad things could happen. He decided to look at another study done in 1994, which reported that the most common error places for people were when they were trying to copy down diagrams, numerical figures, and equations. Sometimes this happens because people think the presenter is going too fast, so they try to just get the main points or what they think are the main points, or they feel like there's just too much, so they don't want to put it all down, which can once again hinder how much you're actually remembering. So the question becomes, what can I actually do then to make sure that the notes I do have are going to be helpful and things that are actually going to help with my grades? And so for some, I believe kind of the most popular one is going to be recordings. So this could be video or audio recordings. And I saw a couple testimonials of people who decided that they were going to take notes during class and record. For the most part, it was audio recording. They would compare it at the end, after class, and that way they could see what they missed in their notes. And then once again, it was just hearing it again to help with memorization. And then they could easily group things together, and it helped them study. And so this was something you could do to help. And then I found a website that I thought really did a good job of outlining some different study habits. The most common one is just the outline method. Um, it does, the outline is definitely, kind of get the main ideas. I think we've all really used it before. And this is one of the ones that they had talked about grouping together with the audio recordings to make sure you had anything. The next, we have the Cornell method, mind maps, and sentence methods. These are just a few. The website has quite a few more. And the whole website is definitely, as you can see down in the mission statement, just trying to help students study and do better in their schooling and grading. It was a very interesting website. Thank you for your time. These are the other studies that I mentioned that Kira had looked at.